They praised my strength so much, I forgot I was allowed to be human. By the time I realized it, I'd spent 70 years holding everyone else together, and no one ever held me. If you're the strong friend who's secretly exhausted, stay. This might finally give you permission to break. I'm 77 years old, and I've never been allowed to fall apart, not once. Everyone praised me for being strong, and that praise slowly destroyed me. My name is Margaret Holloway. I live in Santa Rosa, California. For as long as I can remember, I've been labeled as the strong one, the reliable one, the one who always holds it together. And if you're the person everyone leans on, this is what happens to you. No one warns you that strength can become a prison. And by the time you realize it, your life is already gone. If you've ever been told you're strong when you were actually breaking, if you've ever smiled through tears because people needed you stable, if you've ever felt invisible because you never allowed yourself to be vulnerable, then what I'm about to tell you will feel like looking into a mirror you've been avoiding your whole life. This isn't a story about resilience or triumph. This is about the cost of never breaking, the price of being everyone's emotional backbone, and what happens when you realize that the person you've been holding together for decades is yourself, and she's been suffocating. I'm going to tell you the cost of never breaking so you don't pay it with your own life. Because here's what they don't tell you. People get comfortable with your strength. They stop asking if you're okay. They assume you don't need what everyone else needs. And slowly, quietly, you become a service instead of a person. You become the one who listens but is never heard, the one who holds but is never held, the one who gives but is never given to. And the terrifying part, you don't even notice it happening until it's too late. By the end of this, you'll understand why I spent 70 years disappearing in plain sight. You'll see how a little girl learned to swallow her pain to keep her family from crumbling. You'll watch how that girl became a woman who built her entire identity on being unbreakable, and you'll hear what I wish someone had told me when I was young enough to change course. Strength without permission to be weak is not strength at all. It's erasure. So stay with me, because if you recognize yourself in my story, this might be the thing that finally gives you permission to let go. If this resonates with you, drop a comment, your country flag below. Tell me, are you the strong one in your family? And if you want to hear more stories like this, hit that subscribe button. This matters. I was born in 1947 in Redding, California. My father, Thomas Holloway, had just come back from the Korean War. He wasn't cruel, but he was distant in the way men of that generation were taught to be. He never hugged us, never said he was proud. He existed in our home like furniture, necessary but cold. My mother, Lillian, was chronically ill. Migraines, fainting spells, something the doctors never quite named. She spent most of my childhood in bed or on the couch, and I learned early that the house only ran if I ran it. I was 11 years old the first time I became the strong one. My mother collapsed in the kitchen. I heard the crash from upstairs and ran down to find her on the floor, blood pooling under her head from where she'd hit the corner of the counter. My two younger siblings were screaming. My father wasn't home. And in that moment, something inside me made a decision. I would handle it. I grabbed a towel, pressed it to her head, called the neighbor, and told my siblings to sit down and be quiet. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I just moved. When my father came home hours later, the neighbor told him what I'd done. He looked at me and said, "You're so strong for your age." And my mother, pale and bandaged, smiled weakly and said, "We don't have to worry about Margaret." That was the moment. That was when strength became my identity. Not something I chose, but something I was assigned. And once you're assigned that role, it's almost impossible to put it down. From that day forward, I was the child who didn't need comfort. I was the one who could be counted on. When my mother was too sick to cook, I cooked. When my siblings fought, I mediated. When my father came home angry and silent, I absorbed the tension so no one else had to feel it. I learned that my pain was an inconvenience to others, that my tears were a burden, that my needs were selfish, and I learned the most dangerous lesson of all. If I fall apart, everything else will too. That belief didn't just shape my childhood, it shaped my entire life. It became the lens through which I saw myself. I wasn't Margaret, a person with feelings and needs. I was Margaret, the one who holds things together. And that role followed me into adulthood like a shadow I couldn't shake. Because once people see you as strong, they stop seeing you as human. They stop asking if you're okay, and eventually you stop checking too. I married Robert Holloway in 1968 in Sacramento, California. He was handsome, dependable in his way, and emotionally avoidant in the way most men of that era were. He didn't talk about his feelings, he didn't ask about mine, but he needed me to be steady, and I knew how to be that. So I became his emotional backbone the same way I'd been my family's. I absorbed his stress, his failures, his silences, and I never complained, because complaining would have meant admitting I wasn't strong enough, and I couldn't afford that. We had 2 children, Daniel and Claire, and I loved them fiercely, but I didn't raise them the way I wish I had. I steadied them. I was the calm parent, the mediator, the emotional shock absorber. When Daniel struggled in school, I managed his frustration. When Claire had her heart broken, I held her together. But I never let them see me fall apart. I never modeled vulnerability. I never showed them that it was okay to need help. And in doing that, I taught them the same dangerous lesson I'd learned, that strength means silence. Robert relied on me for everything emotional. If he had a bad day at work, I listened and soothed. If he was anxious, I calmed him. If he withdrew, I filled the space so the house didn't feel empty. But he never learned to do that for me, and I never asked him to, because asking would have meant admitting I needed something, and I'd spent my entire life believing that my needs didn't matter as much as everyone else's. The pattern was invisible but absolute. I gave and everyone took, not maliciously, not consciously, but consistently. And over the years, I became less of a wife and mother and more of a function. I was the person who made everything okay, the person who never needed anything, the person who could be counted on to absorb pain without complaint. And the terrifying part? I didn't even realize it was happening. I thought this was what love looked like. I thought this was what family required. But here's the truth I didn't see until it was too late. I wasn't loved for who I was valued for what I could carry. And when you're valued for your function instead of your humanity, intimacy dies, connection dies. You become a role instead of a person, and the people closest to you stop seeing you entirely. They see the strong one, the reliable one, the one who doesn't break. But they don't see Margaret. They don't see the woman underneath who is drowning in silence. By the time I was in my 40s, my body started speaking the language my mouth never learned. Migraines that felt like my skull was splitting, panic attacks I misnamed as fatigue because I didn't have the luxury of falling apart. And at 54, an autoimmune diagnosis that my doctor said was likely linked to chronic stress. But I didn't rest. I didn't slow down, because slowing down would have meant admitting I couldn't hold everything together anymore, and I'd built my entire identity on being the one who could. One day, my doctor asked me a question that stunned me into silence. She said, "Margaret, when was the last time you rested emotionally?" I didn't have an answer. I'd rested physically, sure. I'd slept, I'd sat down, but emotionally? I couldn't remember a single moment in my adult life where I'd allowed myself to stop carrying everyone else's weight. And that realization didn't lead to change. It led to shame. Because if I couldn't even rest, what did that say about me? My marriage eroded slowly, the way a river wears down stone. Robert never learned to comfort me. He expected strength as my default setting, and when I showed even the smallest crack, he became uncomfortable. He didn't know what to do with my pain, so I stopped showing it. I smiled when I was suffering. I stayed calm when I was collapsing inside, and the distance between us grew until we were two people living in the same house but inhabiting completely different worlds. The cost wasn't just physical or relational, it was existential. I looked in the mirror one day and realized I didn't know who I was outside of what I did for other people. I didn't have hobbies that were mine. I didn't have dreams that weren't tied to someone else's needs. I didn't have a self that existed independently of my role. And that's when the most painful truth settled in. I wasn't loved for who I was valued for what I could carry. And I'd spent so many years carrying that I'd forgotten I was supposed to be a person, not a pack mule. The invisible cost of being the strong one is that you become invisible to yourself. You stop mattering in your own life. Your pain becomes background noise. Your joy becomes conditional on everyone else's stability. And by the time you realize what's happened, you've spent decades disappearing in plain sight. You've become a ghost in your own story, haunting the edges while everyone else takes center stage. And the worst part? No one notices because they're too used to you being fine. In 2008, Robert was diagnosed with cancer, and once again, I became a caregiver. I managed his appointments, his medications, his fears. I held his hand when he was terrified and kept my own terror locked away where no one could see it. When he died 6 months later, people surrounded me with condolences and admiration. They said, "You're so strong." They said, "I don't know how you do it." And I nodded and thanked them because that's what the strong one does. But inside, I was screaming. After his death, I didn't grieve. Not really. I went numb. I moved through the motions of funeral arrangements and estate management and cleaning out his closet, but I didn't feel anything. People expected me to fall apart, and when I didn't, they were relieved. They said I was handling it so well, but I wasn't handling it. I was dissociating. I was doing what I'd done my entire life, swallowing my pain so no one else had to witness it, and the break I desperately needed never came.
Grief is supposed to crack you open. It's supposed to demand that you stop and feel and break and rebuild. But I didn't allow that. I couldn't, because breaking felt like failure. It felt like proving that I wasn't as strong as everyone believed I was. So I stayed intact. I stayed composed. I stayed functional. And in doing so, I denied myself the very thing that might have saved me, the permission to fall apart. Years passed, and I realized something devastating. The collapse I'd avoided my entire life didn't disappear. It didn't resolve itself. It just went inward. My body broke down. My autoimmune condition worsened. My migraines became constant. My panic attacks intensified. And I realized that when you don't allow yourself to break, your joy breaks instead. The part of me that could feel lightness, pleasure, connection, it died. I was still alive, but I wasn't living. I was just enduring. I spent my entire life believing that if I stayed strong enough, long enough, everything would be okay. But it wasn't. Strength without rest is just slow destruction, and I destroyed myself one suppressed emotion at a time, one ignored need at a time, one swallowed scream at a time. The break that never came didn't save me, it buried me alive. And by the time I understood that, I'd lost decades I could never get back. If people come to you when they're falling apart, listen to me. If you're the one who never cries in public, if no one checks on you because they assume you're always fine, if you've built your entire identity on being the person who holds it together, this is for you. Because I need you to understand something I didn't learn until I was 73 years old. Strength without softness kills intimacy. When you never let anyone see you vulnerable, you stop being a person to them. You become a function, a utility. And people get used to your strength. They don't protect it, they exploit it without even realizing it. Emotional suppression doesn't just live in your mind, it rots your body. It weakens your immune system. It creates chronic pain. It turns your nervous system into a war zone. And the cruelest part is that you disappear quietly. You don't collapse in a dramatic, noticeable way. You fade. You become a shadow of yourself while everyone around you continues to assume you're fine. And by the time anyone realizes you're not, you've already lost years of your life to silent suffering. Here's the truth no one tells you. People get used to your strength. They stop asking if you're okay. They stop offering help. They stop seeing you as someone who might need support because you've trained them to believe you don't. And that's not their fault. It's the natural consequence of never letting anyone in. You build walls so high that no one can reach you, and then you wonder why you feel so alone. But the walls weren't protection, they were a prison. You don't owe everyone stability. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe the world an unbreakable version of yourself. You are allowed to be messy. You are allowed to need help. You are allowed to fall apart and trust that the people who love you will help you pick up the pieces. And if they can't handle your vulnerability, then they don't love you. They love what you do for them, and that is not the same thing. Stop proving how strong you are. Stop wearing your endurance like a badge of honor. Stop sacrificing your humanity on the altar of everyone else's comfort, because the cost is too high. The cost is your life. The cost is your joy. The cost is the person you could have been if you'd ever given yourself permission to be human. And I'm telling you this now at 77 years old because I don't want you to reach my age and realize you spent your entire life being strong for everyone else except yourself. I'm 77 years old, and I finally learned something at 73 that should have been taught to me as a child. Strength is allowed to rest. Pain must be witnessed to heal, and you don't owe everyone stability at the cost of your own collapse. For decades, I believed that being strong meant never breaking, but I was wrong. Being strong means knowing when to let go. It means trusting others enough to be vulnerable. It means giving yourself the same grace you spent a lifetime giving everyone else. Let yourself be messy. Let someone else hold it for once. Stop proving how strong you are and start discovering who you are underneath all that armor. Because the person you've been protecting everyone from, the vulnerable, messy, scared version of yourself, she's not weak. She's human, and she deserves to be seen. She deserves to be held. She deserves to take up space without apology. Being the strong one didn't save me, it erased me. It cost me my health, my marriage, my joy, and decades of my life. And I'm telling you this now so you don't pay the same price. You are not a service. You are not a utility. You are a person, and people are allowed to fall apart. They're allowed to need help. They're allowed to say, I can't carry this anymore. And when you finally say that, the people who truly love you won't leave. They'll step closer. So here's my final question for you, and I want you to sit with it. Who would you be if you were finally allowed to break? What version of yourself has been buried under all that strength? What dreams have you postponed because you were too busy holding everyone else together? What joy have you denied yourself because you believed you didn't deserve it? Answer that question, and then give yourself permission to become that person, because life is too short to spend it disappearing, and you are too valuable to waste on being strong for people who never asked you to sacrifice yourself. If this story changed something in you, tell me in the comments, and if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them right now. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next story. Thank you for listening, and remember, You are allowed to break. You are allowed to be held. You are allowed to finally rest.